Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Axel and Friends podcast. My name is Axel, and today, by Twitter voting poll results, I am here today to talk about anime and manga that I have dropped. And for those that are familiar with me on this channel, you know that I finished almost everything. I mean, like, there are things that I complain about, but I read or watch all the way through. But even then, there are still series that I just, for whatever reason, I just dropped. And so that being said, for this week's podcast, I brought on a guy who, in terms of his favorite series, I have personally never dropped. We've got Poxal. Poxal, welcome to the channel and the podcast.
Yo, thanks for having me on, Axel. It's a
Yep.
pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. For those that don't know, Poxal is a big Bleach YouTuber. He is also the DM for a Bleach D&D campaign that I am a part of.
Yeah.
And you can definitely check that out on his YouTube. You can check that out on his Twitch channel, all of which I will have links at the end of the or I will have in the description at the end of the video. Obviously, they'll be at the end of the video, but in the description down below. But yeah, so Poxal, what has been your history in terms of dropping anime and manga?
So, as a anime completionist, manga completionist that I am, I have only dropped like a select few shows, but out of them, I have some very interesting ones. Like, for example, I have dropped One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach at all different times. I mean, I picked them all back up, obviously, but I think those are like the three big ones that I've actually dropped myself.
Absolutely. I'm someone as well that, I mean, like, contrary to popular opinion, maybe, I at one point also dropped One Piece and Naruto. Bleach is the one that I didn't. Like, it was the one where, like, there was always a part, like, a place and time where I either was watching the anime or reading the manga, and there really wasn't a gap. But Naruto and One Piece were ones that I did drop.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely get into that here. But just so everyone kind of has a gist of, like, the flow of what today's podcast is going to be, Pokes and I are going to talk about series, first and foremost, that we dropped, but still managed to pick up later down the road. So ones that we are still either actively reading, watching, or did finish. Then we'll talk about some of the manga that we did not drop, because comparatively to anime, we've dropped very few manga, from what I talked about with Poxal pre-podcast. And then we'll round things out in the end, which will probably be the larger part of today's podcast, discussing the various anime that we've dropped. But yeah, going back to at least the stuff that we temporarily dropped, I'm right there with you, that there was a period of time where I dropped One Piece and Naruto. So out of curiosity, what were the reasons or times that you dropped the big three?
So for me, well, Naruto's probably the funniest, so I'll end off with that one. Bleach, I say I dropped it, but I didn't really. It's more so I chose another series over it at the time. My brother had, I've told this story on podcasts before. My brother showed me like 3 first episodes of anime: Blue Exorcist, Bleach, and Sword Art Online. And at the time, I was looking at episode counts, and I was like watching the first episode, and I was like, okay, Sword Art Online seems way cooler than the rest of these. I only want to watch that right now. So I slowly binged my way through SAO and left Bleach in the gutter, but then I picked up Bleach after finishing SAO.
Oh,
but I still feel ashamed as a Bleach stan as I am to have dropped Bleach and watched SAO first.
No, I mean, like, so I get it though. Like, with a lot of people nowadays, like, it's one of those things where it's just like, wait. In order to consume all of this, I have to watch or read hundreds of episodes or chapters. That's crazy. And a lot of people, especially if it's anime, they would much rather consume something that's 12, 24 episodes, maybe like 2 seasons or whatnot, maybe 3. That's a lot easier to digest. So like we can definitely count that as you dropping Bleach. But I mean, like that's also like you dipped your toes into the water for that rather than actually
I
like
think
fully getting in.
even today I just find stories that are short to be more compelling to pick up because they're so short that you can just watch them in one go if you really want to.
Right.
So yeah.
It's you get to wrap up the story in a more condensed way compared to, you know, standard shonen series or long running anime manga in general, where the goal, at least of the publishers, is to keep a series going for as long as it's profitable, rather than just like succinctly like beginning, middle, end, wholesome story, just shorter.
Yeah, I definitely agree. As for you, what was it that Bleach that made it stand out from the other two that made you not drop it?
So I mean, I, as the older teenager that I was at the time that Bleach was around, it was just like, oh cool, like these badass guys like throwing their swords around, and it's bloody and awesome, and it's late at night on Toonami, and like fun like that, compared to like Naruto, for example, back when that was airing on Toonami on Saturdays during like early evening, really late afternoon. So we're talking like late 2000s. That was part of a very different block in comparison to Bleach, where like Bleach was part of like the darker, more like older teen adult section, whereas Naruto was thrown in there with Bobobo, which no slander or anything towards Bobobo, because I freaking love that comedy series with a passion, as annoyed as some people would be. But I will, funny enough, with Bobobo, it has one of my favorite Johnny Yongbosh characters, because he plays, I want to say he played Bobo Jiggler or something on it, and it is one of the most hilarious 5-minute clips that you can find on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's hilarious thinking like, oh my gosh, this man was Ichigo, but he's also this character in Bobobo.
I think I love Johnny as a voice actor as well. Like, he makes scenes so good. My issue when Johnny is on in the roles is whenever he says anything intellectual, I can only think of Lelouch.
That's
like
fair.
Yeah. So like even like with like Ichigo, when Ichigo's talking to Gin, I was like, wait, is this the Lelouch that I'm hearing? It just happens, I guess.
And I will say, like, as a voice actor, he's definitely gotten better as time has gone on.
Yeah.
Because by all means, like, late 2000s, early 2010s, like, you could, like, all of Johnny's voices, like, for the various characters, it was really more or less the same. Like, maybe a little bit of difference, like, from character to character, a little bit, but there wasn't as much distinction between them. Compared to like more recently, he was Zora in Black Clover's dub, where his voice is a lot more raspy. He is a lot more of like an asshole in Black Clover with that particular character. Good-hearted asshole, but still. And then he also played the main character in why am I blanking on it? Great Pretender. He was the main character in Great Pretender's dub.
Yeah, Johnny now like has gone way better at voice acting. I mean, even old Johnny was a goat at voice acting, but he just keeps on getting better. And to this day, he's probably one of my favorite voice actors.
Yes.
In the medium.
I would definitely agree.
Yeah. And it's funny how you mentioned how the reason why you didn't drop Bleach was because of its darker atmosphere, because that's also why I fell in love with Bleach in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
After I finished SAO and went back to it and repicked it up, I enjoyed it because of its darker tone, because of how it approached things from a different angle than, say, One Piece and Naruto.
Yes.
And also because of the dub voice acting.
Right. It was also the first manga that I purchased as well. So that was a big thing that kept me going. Because there were periods of time where like I would watch the anime and then I found out, oh, there's a comic version of this that's farther ahead than the anime. Oh my god. So like that was a thing where because there was always a medium available to me, that was something that like kept me going on Bleach. And by all means, yes, there was manga available for Naruto and One Piece, but Bleach just kept me in during that period of my life.
Yeah. Why did you end up dropping Naruto?
So Naruto and One Piece had very similar reasons. Well, at least for me picking them back up, I should say. But for Naruto, the big reason why I dropped Naruto is because the period of time that I dropped it was when we were in the 3 seasons of filler tacked on to the end of Naruto's anime prior to Shippuden. Which, for anyone that has ever complained about filler for Bleach or One Piece or whatever, I do think that pales in comparison to the fact that Naruto literally decided to have 3 seasons of filler between Naruto and Shippuden. Like,
yeah,
ridiculous.
I bet you there was definitely like a sales drop at that point.
Oh, absolutely. I could definitely agree with that. So with Naruto, I dropped it during that time where it was just in like the filler kind of section, and again when it was on Toonami, more so during the early evening, before Toonami switched just to midnights on like Saturdays, I think. I could be wrong, but yeah. And like it is also funny going back and reading the Naruto Viz translation for like the early volumes, because like even that was heavily censored, at least in terms not necessarily of like the blood and violence, but more so like some of like the sexual content, and then the alcohol side of things. Like they still had in the manga, alcohol is power potions, and it was the dumbest thing to me. Like, oh my god, Rock Lee is souped up on power potions. He's not using Drunk Fist whatsoever. No. So yeah, that was at least why I dropped Naruto. And then for One Piece, I dropped it because, speaking once again to the Toonami side of things, although a little bit different, I dropped One Piece at Skypiea. And it wasn't necessarily because of Skypiea itself, per se, but because at that time, that was when One Piece switched over from the 4Kids dub to the Funimation dub. And it was one of those things where, like, in that transition, I was kind of like, alright, whatever, I guess. And, like, it did not stick with me. It just didn't. But then the reason why I picked both One Piece and Naruto back up again, was because back in 2009 and 2010, there was a magical period of time on YouTube where it was still in its infancy and copyright wasn't as big of a deal as it was now, and almost any popular anime you could find on YouTube split up into 3 parts. And that was the case for Naruto, that was the case for One Piece, that was the case for Bleach. And I picked back up both Naruto and One Piece because there was newer content from like the Japanese subs that was like really interesting. Like I saw Naruto when he was older, and I was just like, wait, Naruto is older now? I gotta pick this back up.
Yeah.
And in the case of One Piece, I saw AMVs online when AMVs were also a thing and copyright for music wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. And I saw Frankie for the first time. I was just like, who is this cool guy with the huge arms and a like crazy blue hair? And like, I need to watch One Piece again. So both of those I picked back up because of the magical time on YouTube where anime episodes were split into 3 parts. And then, that just doesn't obviously work anymore today. But magical time.
Well, I dropped One Piece twice myself. So I watched it the first time when I was younger, around the same time I was watching Bleach, and I felt when I was like 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, 9, 8, I don't know exactly how old I was. I felt like I was like too mature for the style. Like it just felt very cartoony. It felt like the main character is a man made out of rubber. Like while it's an interesting concept, I feel like Oda's art style is very more childlike to look at. And I still don't like the style of his art, but I do recognize that as good art. I want to make that clear. And I ended up dropping it really early on because it just felt too childish. The first episode for it wasn't the best. I mean, it was weird. I was not a fan of Buggy, and I dropped it around the Buggy part, which is very early.
That's less than 10 in.
Yeah. And then I picked it back up about 2 years ago or last year when I wanted to do a review series because I was inspired by One Piece Virgin, and I wanted to do an anime review series with Briggs and Johnny, and we did that. We did the first East Blue arc, and then I watched all of Alabasta, and I was still going, but then I stopped in Skypiea because of the classic reason: the pacing was awful. And again, I still didn't like the art style. I don't know what about it was. It's just not my cup of tea for the art style. It just feels very childish almost to look at. And then I ended up doing a bet because for One Piece's 1000th chapter, Seth invited me to do a video collab thingy where we would all share our favorite moment of One Piece. And I shared mine, and at the end of my video, I said if this video hits 75 likes, which I thought was going to be impossible because my average like was 30, then I'll read One Piece. And then that's where Sensei Inc. comes in, and he throws the video up on his community tab, gets the video to 75 likes, and now I have to read 1,000 chapters of One Piece. Yep. Honestly, I'm enjoying One Piece as I'm reading it, but if I didn't have to read 1,000 chapters after post-war arc, with where I'm at in post-time skip, I probably would drop it.
And I can understand that. Like, it's... Yeah. One Piece, whether people want to admit it or not, it is a series of peaks and valleys. And and from person to person, it does vary on what your enjoyment of it is, especially depending on like which of the characters are your favorites and whatnot, and which ones you don't like. Yeah. And if there's a particular arc that is having a heavier focus on the characters that you don't like, or the characters that you do like just aren't there, it's not necessarily as enjoyable. And yeah, I'm like, after going back and watching Skypiea, it is like, I would be lying if I didn't say that I felt that same issue of the pacing. It also just, there was something about the setting that it was just like, this doesn't click with me as much. And it's not like they haven't had settings where like they've been away from their boats for a long period of time, because they always are. It's just kind of how it is. But like the setting just, I don't know, there was just something about it where it was just like, I'm not clicking with this. The characters, I'm not having as much fun with them. Just like, I recognize that people like it, but it's just one of the lower ones for me.
Yeah, I think the thing with One Piece is it has the classic long-running shonen thing.
Yes.
Whether fans will admit or not, where it does, like you said, have those ups and then those stagnant downhills. And I mean, heck, my favorite series, Bleach, I will admit, has the same thing. Every start of every new arc has a stagnant downhill.
Yes.
Until it picks up back up again. But with One Piece, I feel like it's more like it's either a very gas arc throughout the entire arc, or it's an arc that's bottom of the barrel. for
Mm-hmm.
One Piece in One Piece terms, which bottom of the barrel for One Piece is more like just mid.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think what really caused me to really like think, okay, if I didn't make this deal, then I would have dropped it by now again. Is we had such a high peak. Like we had like 3 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 arcs in a row. Impel Down, Marineford, post-war arc, and then we had Return to Sabaody, which I get some people like more than me. I hate it. It's like a 3 out of 10 in my opinion. I hate the arc to pieces. And then we have Fishman Island, which is a good arc, but it just isn't good compared to what we've had prior. And I think that's what's kind of has my mindset on One Piece. But another series in the big three, and probably the funniest story, and probably the most creditless one, is Naruto, and how I dropped Naruto. So, I watched the first 50 episodes of Naruto when I was younger, or 40, something around there. I got to like when Naruto was returning after the Chunin exams and going to fight Neji. I got to that part, and I ended up dropping it, not because I didn't like the series. I mean, I found Naruto annoying as a kid, and I still do, but that's the point of his character. But I actually dropped it because so many people in my class and so many people that I knew who watched anime, which was very far in between, hated Bleach but loved Naruto. So I was that little toxic kid that was like, fine, if you don't like my series, then I'm not going to like yours. So I dropped it. But I didn't know that I dropped it. That's another funny thing. Like I thought at the time that it was terrible, and I ended up dropping it. But I still remembered like certain aspects of it that I shouldn't have remembered because I still watched some of the fights on YouTube. So like my brain like connected the pieces to think I had seen more than I actually had seen. But yeah, I pretty much dropped it because of toxic reasons, I guess.
I mean, I think that's fine. In all honesty, that is fine in a way. Like there are series by all means that like are overhyped sometimes, and I will say that doesn't mean that every series is overhyped. I think there are a lot of people that like to be negative or contrarians and be like, oh man, this series is overhyped, like it's not as big of a deal as it is. And it's just like, it is kind of a big deal. Like I don't like, and you'll always have people that are like, oh well, sales don't matter, and then there are people that are like, oh, sales matter. And like either way, yes, a lot of series do get hyped that they deserve. There are some that get overhyped. There are ones that get underhyped or overhated. It happens a lot. It's happened to all 3 series that we've talked about so far. It's just one of those things.
And yeah, I do agree with that. I think I have revisited Naruto now, and now I'm up to the war arc. I'm struggling to get through that right now. But
the pacing of the war arc is definitely a struggle.
I switched to manga. I couldn't keep up with the anime.
Oh
for the
no,
war arc.
absolutely not. The fact that like they would like intersplice filler in every 10 to 20 episodes, like no. Which I mean, to be fair, the same thing happened to Bleach during the whole Arrancar arc with Hueco Mundo and whatnot. It's just like, all right, here's 20 episodes. All right, here's 30 episodes of filler. All right, here's 20 canon episodes. Back to 30 more episodes of filler.
I understand anybody who decides to drop the Bleach anime, because even Tite Kubo himself said that the anime made him want to throw up.
It's
so like
I mean, there are I think that, for example, I think that too many people do shit on the Bount arc a little too hard. Like I'm one of those people I'm not going to say that the Bount arc was great, but I don't think it was as bad as some people think it was.
No, I agree.
Like it does any of the filler arcs afterwards, though. I will say it's one of those things where it's just like, this happened at a different time period than what has been shown, and it's just like, when, how, in time can this actually fit?
Yeah, the second and third filler arc for sure. The final filler arc fitted really well. It was between him using Mugetsu and slowly losing his powers instead of instantly losing them, which I thought was a cool aspect. But I actually have the Bount arc not as the lowest filler arc, because although it started out really rough, the ending of it, I feel like really picked up and showed aspects of the Soul Society and really distinguished them that we would later get to see in the Fullburn arc about how corrupt the Soul Society really is.
Right.
But yeah, I think the Mount arc is a little bit crapped on too much. But yeah, I like Naruto now. It's in my top 50, and I don't judge it based off of the fact that people who liked Naruto hated on my favorite series anymore. That was just me as a toxic 11-year-old or 12-year-old.
We all have that phase.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like it's fine.
Yeah.
You grew out of it.
Yeah.
You're good. You're not 11 years old anymore. I mean, that being said, I've seen your behavior in GCs, and you're definitely a type of person which, like, you don't like my series? Well, I'm not going to like your series.
Yeah, no, that's more like us all memeing around, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
It's all in good fun, but I had to get that small jab in there, so...
Yeah, you really had to stab me in the heart, Axel.
Hey. As someone that takes your side on the Bleach stuff in GCs, just saying... I've had your back in those more than anyone else.
You have. That is fair.
So
that is fair.
Before we get on to the manga that we have dropped, have there been any other series that you can remember that you dropped for a period of time but then came back to and actually finished or have kept going on?
Well, actually, there is a few. Actually, no, I can't think of any. However, I was gonna make a funny JoJo's meme here, but I'm really trying to think. I would say no, but I think JoJo's approaching me right now and saying that it was him, Dio. I don't know.
I give that
okay,
joke
JoJo's. What do you rate my joke?
I give it a Kakyoin out of 10.
Listen, the more carefully I think, the more unexpected shows come to my list.
Fair enough. I will say, at least on my end, the only other series that I have dropped at one point but did come back to, and I'm counting this more as a technicality, would be God of High School. Because this was a series that, like, I watched the anime, and then for a long period of time, I didn't have as big of an interest in reading the manhwa, just because of all of the things I heard about how God of High School crammed over 100 chapters into the span of 13 episodes. Which is sacrilege. Like, that is absolutely awful. But I did start reading the God of High School manhwa more recently, as of 2 podcasts ago. And I've been really enjoying it. And again, just really sad that it got the anime adaptation that it did, just because it sped through so much. And while a lot of the fights were visually appealing, they skipped so many character moments and changed a lot of characters' personalities and whatnot to fit the time frame, and it just was not good.
And I think what sucks more is the amount of hype that was built up for both series for them to only get such garbage adaptations. But yeah, another series I dropped for funny reasons was Ping Pong the animation.
Interesting.
Everybody tells me it's like the best sports anime out there, so I picked it up for an episode, watched 10 minutes of it. I understand the animation is good, but the art style I just couldn't get into. I did not like the art, and I usually don't judge series based off of art, but it was bad in my opinion. Like, I didn't like the style of it, and I get why. I get how it was animated, and I understand the production behind it and how it's actually really good. It just isn't for me. So I respect the series, but I can't watch it.
I mean, at the very least, I applaud you for being able to recognize that style and animation are 2 different things. So, because there are a lot of people that don't. So,
yeah, it's the same thing as saying that something has bad art because I don't like it. Like, I know people who say that art is bad because I don't like this art, even though it's very detailed art. It's just not your style of art. In manga. just like Oda, his manga not being my style, but I do appreciate his art. Another series is Yu-Gi-Oh! After like 5DS, Arc 5, and all the other series after the high school one, GX.
Mm-hmm.
Those were just dropped because I thought the ideas were ridiculous. Like 5DS feeling like it was just Yu-Gi-Oh! On motorcycles, and that felt dumb in my opinion. Yeah. And then Arc 5 just being I didn't like the characters.
So, I mean, when it comes to card game anime, it's for every series, it's always, hey, let's have fun playing a children's card game. And then it evolves into, oh my god, we have to play a children's card game to protect the universe or it will be destroyed. And it's just like, how did we get from point A to point B? How... What? And it's the same for like every single one of them. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh GX, Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, Yu-Gi-Oh Arc, sorry, Zexal before that, then Arc 5, then Vrains, and it happened in Card Fight Vanguard and every like iteration of Vanguard, and it's just like, oh my god, every time,
for sure,
every time, like
I don't know, and the thing is I enjoyed like OG Yu-Gi-Oh, especially Season 0, but like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, but the concept just feels like it's getting old and milked it's a cash cow. And that's just how it felt to me. I know some people say 5DS is the best writing in the series. I can't get into it. It's weird. But yeah. I definitely can agree.
To each their own on that. 5Ds is one of my favorites of the series. I actually think Arc 5 has pretty decent writing as well. It's a nice it's a nice series that like pays homage to the other Yu-Gi-Oh series leading up to it. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains was a series that was just like, hey, you want a recap episode every 8 episodes? And it was every like without fail, like it's just like, hey, I know that you just watched these 2 duels or 3 duels that span 2 to 4 episodes each, but we're gonna remind you about them in the 9th episode. It's just like, no, you're just you're just doing this to fill a time slot. Like this is not, no, it's not enjoyable. It's not. But
did you ever drop did I don't even know if you picked it up, but did you drop X-Arm?
I never even watched it because I saw that trailer and I was just like, no.
Yeah, I did for the memes. I watched the first 2 episodes, but I couldn't get past that. Did you know Seth watched the entirety of X-Arm or something?
That doesn't shock me in any. That doesn't shock me in any capacity because I had him on for a podcast episode to discuss the spring anime season, and he still watched over 40 series despite having to do finals. Insane.
Yeah, I know. I actually just watched that one before we got on this one. It's a fire podcast that you guys definitely should check out after this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was gas. Yeah, I think I did pick up. I immediately dropped it, but I did end up picking it up. But what about Seven Deadly Sins? Like, if you watched it and got to the bad animation part, bad CGI part.
So I will say, for the people that have complained about the animation for Seven Deadly Sins, it is not the worst animation drop of series that I have watched. Now, that being said, I can't say that I technically dropped the Seven Deadly Sins series because I did read all of the manga. I've watched the anime in bits and pieces, and like there are other anime that I have dropped because I went and read the anime or the manga. So like that was the case for like Akame ga Kill. That was the case for Days, the soccer series. That was the case for what else do we got on the list here? Kakaishi, which was a Exorcist series. Not a lot of people know about that. That one was on Toonami at one point. But yeah, there were, and Prince of Tennis. That was another one where like I dropped the anime to watch the manga. But the worst anime quality drop that I personally have experienced was Terraform Mars Revenge, the second season of Terraform Mars, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. They took so many
Oh yeah.
characters and they made them look so generic and like almost undistinguishable from others
Hmm.
that were like similar in appearance. They took the cockroach
Yeah.
enemies and like turned them into CGI. Um, and it's super disappointing because the first season of Terra for Mars was really good. Like the animation and everything was fantastic. Yes, it had awful censorship in the first 3 episodes, and then they were like, "Oh my god, there's black censorship in
Hmm.
75% of this show. We have to just get rid of it and be like, it's uncensored, guys. You're just gonna have to deal with it." But it was really good. And then like the second season came around and it was garbage. I watched one episode and I was just like, nope, not happening. Like
Yeah.
I'd switched to the manga after watching the first season. But there are certain series that I will go back and I'll watch the anime adaptation to see if it's any good, or I'll watch it with my girlfriend. But that was one where it was just like, oh
Hmm.
no, oh no, it's bad,
Yeah,
bad.
I definitely do agree with you about the whole Seven Deadly Sins thing not being that bad. I mean, I dropped Seven Deadly Sins, but it wasn't for the animation, or I don't know. I'm not. It got a little bit weird and got a little bit old in the third season, the season that it dropped for everybody. But I know people who do say it's their favorite season of Seven Deadly Sins. Like, I know my sister has that as her favorite anime season in all of fiction. Like, and while I disagree, and what I watched of it was bad, I did end up dropping the series. But it wasn't due to animation or anything like that. Honestly, it was because I forgot about it. I was watching it weekly with the season, and I just forgot,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny. But
I mean, like, my
uh,
only complaint with the series is that more so towards well, two complaints. One, they decided to throw in power levels at one point, and that's never a good thing, in my opinion, when you just throw out arbitrary numbers to define power levels. I never think that's good. I mean, Dragon Ball got rid of them at one point because it was just like, oh my god, why did we like put a number here? And, like, it just,
mhm,
no. And then the other thing is that, like, especially towards like the final boss stuff, it got repetitive. It was just like,
yeah,
here's the final boss, here's the final boss, here's the final boss again. The final boss is still here. Oh, it's the final boss, but in another form. Oh, it's the final boss, but in another form. And it kept going,
yeah,
and it was just like, oh my god, let it end. And like the actual ending was kind of like, huh? But then when you realize, oh, that they're setting up for the sequel series, which has been good. Four Knights of the Apocalypse has
yeah,
been good. I have enjoyed it a lot so far because it reminds me of original Seven Deadly Sins. Um, but that's the thing, is I was just like, all right, well, we're setting up a sequel series at the end
hmm,
here, so I was just kind of like, whatever. But
yeah.
yeah.
Are
Um,
there are there any series for you that got like too like weird or used things and use serious topics in bad ways that cause you to drop them?
uh, serious topics, not that I can
For
think of.
example, like it glorifies something that's bad.
Oh, no. Not really. That's not I'm scrolling through my list here, and there's like nothing that I'm just like that's
Yeah.
sticking out. That I mean, don't get me wrong, there have been ones that I've dropped because they've been weird. But there's never been
Hmm.
one where it's had like a serious kind of topic or whatever
Yeah.
that I. But I take it based on that question that you have an example of that.
Yeah. So I was tricked into watching Redo of Healer. Um
Oh no.
yeah, that was a drop after episode 1.
Uh huh.
Like an instant drop. I was not happy with how that turned out. And it wasn't even I dropped it because it handled subjects in a poor manner, I felt like. But it wasn't even just that. It was just a bad anime overall as well. Like it was so poorly written. Alongside being just bad to be bad, you know? And it was garbage, in my opinion, as a series, and especially with how it handled topics such as, I mean, I'm not gonna say them because you could get demonetized, but anybody who knows the series knows what I'm referring
Oh,
to.
by all means. If you don't know what Redo of Healer is at this point and you're in the anime community, I question what magical rock that you climbed under to specifically avoid finding out anything about Redo of Healer, because that was the drama topic of the month at one point, where it's just like, oh, I'm an anime content creator, I'm gonna do a video on Redo of Healer. And it's impossible to not know what it is if you're part of the community. So
especially if you're subscribed to Next Taku.
Absolutely. But that was a series that I avoided from the get-go because I knew about it. And it was one of those...
I would have done the same.
Right.
Yeah.
It was one of those series where it's just like... And I found out, like, the author did it... He wrote it that way on purpose. So, like, it is what it is. Compared to... And, like, it was, in a way, kind of a parody of other series like it. And it's funny because he actually spoke on the isekai manga that got canceled after one chapter. Like, it was called like Isekai Killer or something along that line. And he was just like, yeah, you kind of have to know where the line is and tread it carefully. And this person just clearly didn't. And I was just like, yeah, they kind of... Because when you create a series that's a parody by killing likenesses of other popular isekais and whatnot, people are going to get upset. That's just kind of how it is. But, yeah, no, there's nothing on my list that I'm seeing that really, like, handled a serious topic badly, I guess.
I think SAO handled certain aspects badly, but it wasn't like... I never dropped SAO.
That's fair.
If that makes sense.
It's a... especially with, like, the second half of the first season, it's, it gets rough, but, like... I will say, like, that is an entirely plausible situation. It was just like, oh, this is done in this way, which people felt a similar way with, like, Goblin Slayer, with, like, how like the first episode with the camera angles and whatnot, and it was just kind of like, okay, I know this is supposed to be bad, but the way that you're doing this is just like, oh
yeah. Like, for example, something like Berserk and series like that, I think you can handle, like, serious topics like that well. Not like by not glorifying them. Like, that was my issue with Redo the Healer, is it glorified those issues. Like, it made it seem like it was a good thing that these things were going on, you know? And that's why I also dropped it. But I also heard what happens after where I watched it, and it just is a continually slope of this character that's taking advantage of everyone. And their situation. It's making it seem like he's, like, happy, like he deserves all these things that are going to him because of how terrible his life was. And I think that's my issue with it as a series. But say something like Berserk, it uses it to characterize and grow Guts as a character. And develop him. And it's still weird. And anybody who doesn't like something because of that, I totally understand. Or anybody who drops something because of that, I understand. Like, it's perfectly reasonable.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, like, dark subjects and whatnot, like, not everyone is going to be comfortable with them. And that is a thing that in, like, dark seinen series, that can be a running thing. And it is perfectly fine not to be comfortable with those things. Like, it's perfectly fine to be more comfortable with happier series that never tread anywhere close to that. Completely fine. I guess, and I don't know, this is kind of like a weird segue, but I guess you could kind of consider this. With some of the manga that I've dropped, a lot of the ones that I have dropped are ones where they were also dropped by their respective magazines, because they just weren't good. U19 is one of those series, and U19 was one where, like, kids were ranked by like how like exceptional they were in terms of like brains, ability, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like the main character gets ranked the lowest, while his childhood friend slash crush ish, like, it gets ranked like the highest that you can be. And so like he has to stop society and how they're ranking children and trying to like technically breed like the higher ranked people and whatnot. And then they added weird libido based superpowers, and it was just kind of like, why?
Yeah.
And then it got dropped after 21 chapters. But I don't know, like it's funny
Yeah.
to drop series before they've been dropped themselves by the magazine. It's one of those things where it's just like, I have a preconceived notion that this is going to be bad, therefore I'm going to drop it. It
Mm-hmm.
happened with the series Full Drive, which was a Shonen Jump series about ping pong, so nowhere near as good as Ping Pong the animation. And then it happened with a series from Weekly Shonen Magazine that I read called Beast Number 6, which just, it was so blah. Like, this guy had like a beast arm thing and he fought other beasts, but he didn't like to fight beasts, so he was gonna let this lady fight beasts. And it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
i'm not I'm not really feeling this. Just blah. um Honestly, the only other manga that I can legitimately say that like I dropped was Soul Eater Not, which was like the shoujo-ish spin-off of Soul Eater. And I tried watching and reading it like
Yeah.
twice, and it was not sticking for me. I was just, I don't care for this. I really don't. And I love Soul Eater.
Mm-hmm.
I love Fire Force. I just couldn't with Soul Eater Not. I couldn't.
Oh, yeah, I've never heard of that. But yeah, so I've actually dropped two mangas. I was wrong. Actually no, three technically. I was wrong earlier when I said that I dropped zero. The first manga that I dropped is Batum or but Batum, yeah, Batum.
Yep, I know which one
And
you're
I
talking
read
about.
it, yeah, I read it for a podcast that Jake hit me up on. It's like, it's Stick It with the Manga or something like that. And what they do is they have a guest on and they all read a certain manga first, X amount of chapters, and you give your opinion on that amount of chapters of the series. Batum had a very manga. A lot of the story is just there for shock value,
Uh-huh.
and the author relies way too heavily on shock value.
Uh-huh.
I think my favorite part was just a picture of lizards. Like, that tells you how bad the Batum manga was. And the concept was actually interesting, but it just got really bad really fast and really boring really fast too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was interested in one aspect, and that was with the mother, but I am just bored with it overall. And I dropped it right after the podcast was done, and we got the 10 or 15 chapters out of the way. The second manga, and this is interesting for Axel because he kept telling me it was bad, and I kept telling him it wasn't. And that'd be Time Paradox Ghostwriter.
oh man. Time
Yeah.
Paradox.
I remember reading like 4 or 5 chapters of it and being in the group chat saying, I can't believe this got canceled. It's like the best manga in Jump right now when it was running. Like, I like this a lot. Like, it's like a 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. And you were just like, it's bad. It got canceled for a reason. And I was like, I don't believe you, Axel. You're wrong. This is great. And he's like, after this chapter, it just falls off. I'm like, no, you're wrong. I doubt that. Got to that chapter, read a little bit past that. It's only like an 18 chapter or 15 chapter manga, I think,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
And I dropped it on like chapter 10. So yeah, that was the time where I'm like, I should have listened to Axel before saying my opinion on the series.
Yeah, no, I finished Time Paradox Ghost Rider because it was one of those. Again, like I've mentioned, I don't typically drop manga. Like if I start it, I finish it, especially with Shonen Jump stuff, because it's like, oh, it's getting translated. I'm gonna read it because we're actually getting translations for it, because there was a period of time where we didn't get everything. So it's really nice that we do get everything now. But like that series, I did not like it. And like I have people that consistently are like, no, you're wrong. Like it was fine. Like it was good. And it was just like, no, it wasn't. Like it didn't do things well. And there are other series that did similar things but better. And it's like, no, not good.
Yeah.
Like Bakuman had similar arcs to all of what Time Paradox Ghostwriter was, and Bakuman did it better. Like, period.
Yeah, I haven't read Bakuman, but it keeps on getting recommended to me by numerous people. Apparently, there's a character that's based off of Kubo or something. Is why I'm keep on being told by people it's like a Kubo / Oda mix.
Huh.
That's just what I was told.
Gotcha. I mean, like I guess I've never necessarily plugged any of the particular characters to like real world equivalents with that. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like certain ones have like certain eccentricities and whatnot, but I never did like a one for one kind of deal. But I it is one of my favorite works by that author artist duo, since they're also the Death Note duo and Platinum End and etc. Yeah, I love Bakuman. I've watched all of it. I've read all of it. I do recommend reading it just because one of the best arcs does not get made into the anime. So I definitely think it's better done in the manga. And it's I mean, it's fitting reading the manga for a manga making manga. So yeah, it is definitely good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can definitely talk about anime that we've dropped then. And there are I mean, like my list, I've technically got like 54 series on my drop list from my anime list, but that's not, I don't know if I can technically say it's true for everything, because a lot of it is stuff that like I watched growing up but never technically finished because I was growing up. I never really looked back. But there definitely are, especially seasonal anime, that I have dropped for various reasons. Before I get into the various seasonal stuff that I've dropped, do you remember like years ago you would have like certain anime that were like, this is why is this on like Disney or Cartoon Network, and like why do people pick this up? That was how I felt about the anime Mushrambo. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. So it was on like Disney XD, and it was this anime where like there was like this legendary warrior Mushrambo or whatever, and his body and or soul was like split up into like 3 people. So it was like this sword or spear wielding guy, this guy like in like a blue hood or whatever, and then a yellow cat chef. I'm just like, what? Why? What? And like they would have their own like individual transformations, but then they could be combined into Mushrambo. And I was just like, why is this on Disney XD? Who chose this? What? Not good. So like, and that was a big period of time in like the early 2010s, late 2000s, where you would just have random anime that like these network executives would pick up for their programming block, and it was just weird, absolutely weird.
I don't have any like major examples of that with like Japanese cartoons, anime. But I did just realize that I accidentally shared a major portion of what was supposed to be in this topic at the end of the first topic.
No, you're good. That's fine.
Yeah. like I accidentally mentioned Redo the Healer when that probably should have been mentioned at this topic because there's no way I watched episodes 2 through 12 of that. But I guess yeah, I guess there was a few Ghibli films that I did drop.
Can you really count that as? I mean, I guess you can count that as dropping, but like,
they're films, so it's kind of weird. Like, it's more so I got busy midway watching them, and I just never paid attention. You know.
Sure.
I dropped Kiss X Sis, I guess, but that was because the first episode was weird. But then I watched all of Domestic Girlfriend, so it's weird. It's more so I wasn't as much as a degenerate when I watched Domestic Girlfriend than I was when I watched Kiss X Sis. So, I dropped Sewaki Kitsune no Senko-san.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm not furry, so I dropped it. It's about like a fox girl or something. I don't know. I watched one episode like 4 years ago and I dropped it. But like, the issue is like, I think I mentioned most of the series I dropped and didn't. I mean, did you drop Dragon Ball at any point in the series?
No, I did watch pretty much all of Dragon Ball GT. There might have been like an episode or two that I missed along the way just because when it aired on Toonami, it was always airing pretty much the next new episode every week. But I watched Dragon Ball all the way through, and I watched Super all the way through, and I read the Super manga. So I've always stuck with that. Although, and conversely, I will say that I did drop the Boruto anime, but I did keep up with the Boruto manga. Just because, I mean, that was like all filler. Well, not the Boruto anime is weird terrible. Because it's technically filler, but it's also technically anime canon because it was creating the content between when Boruto was in ninja school and when he got to the story in the manga. So it's
just because the manga's monthly, so they have to, in order to do a weekly anime, they have to add so much more content. Now, Boruto's weird because I've read the Boruto manga, but I'm not finished with Naruto. So that's like a sin.
That kind of reminds me of Toonami, though, because Toonami started airing Boruto's anime before it finished airing the Naruto anime on Toonami.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that being said, like the Naruto anime on Toonami, like, has just been going on forever. And I think at one point they were just like, all right, we gotta assume that people just finished watching Naruto on their own at one point. Let's give them Boruto. And so they did that. So it's yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah. I did drop Dragon Ball, even though I know you said you didn't. I dropped Dragon Ball during GT.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Speaking of big anime that I dropped the original Full Metal Alchemist. I never finished watching that. And I did watch all of Brotherhood. So my reasoning for dropping Full Metal Alchemist, though, is... Am I, though? Is it?
Yes, the original FMA is a banger.
I know it is, but hear me out. So the reason why I dropped Full Metal Alchemist and never finished it is that every time I tried to watch it through Toonami, I would always get one of like the same 4 episodes. And it was just like, how am I supposed to make progress on this if I'm seeing the exact same thing? The same thing happened with Fooly Cooly. Like, I mean, that being said, Fooly Cooly has a lot less episodes to choose from, but I always saw like the same one every time Fooly Cooly was on. It was just like, great, I've seen this episode 7 times. Really wish I could watch more episodes, but...
No.
Nope.
That reason that you just stated is as compelling as rat crap in the bathroom, and it will be your demise.
Okay.
I just want to make a JoJo's reference.
Okay.
No,
Fair
I think
enough.
that's a fair reason. I love the original FMA. You gotta go back and peep it. It
Oh no,
does.
I know.
Yeah, it does the characters so much, like the actual villains, the homunculi, so much better than the actual series does, like the
Yeah,
manga and the Brotherhood does, and
yeah.
that's why, if I were you, I'd peep it when you get a chance. There's a lot going on. It's tough to peep everything and watch everything. I feel like, but I do recommend peeping it. I dropped Berserk 2016.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people dropped Berserk 2016. They
you
watched one episode and they were like, "Oh no."
know, there's a funny story with Berserk 2016. I'm sitting there, I dropped it a long time ago, but I have a friend who only watches anime. Like, he's not a manga fan, and he's currently watching Berserk 2016. We're randomly at a party, and he is like, I found this new series. It's so gas. I'm loving it. The story is so cool. I mean, the CGI is not the best, but it's so cool. You have to check it out. And I'm like, what could that be? And he said Berserk. And I was like, I just felt bad for the man. Like, it was just pain. Like, I had like Guts' theme song in my mind, just, go playing in the background in my head, just feeling bad for this guy that he has to watch Berserk through its anime.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the fact that he is enjoying it is actually interesting. Like, I couldn't imagine enjoying 2016.
And I know that a lot of people hate on the spider isekai for like not adapting the story the way that they wanted it to, but the studio has come a long way compared to Berserk 2016. Not that it's perfect. There are a lot of episodes that still have issues, especially with like the last couple of episodes where like they even had to delay the release because production was just slammed. And there was a lot of stuff where it's just like, oh, there's an excessive amount of CGI here.
I think the issue with Spider isn't because of its CGI per se.
It's
more so, yeah. It's not only like the adaptation is like putting way too many volumes of the light novel per episode and way too many chapters, like combining stuff, making things move way too quickly. It's also the fact that it always goes two directions. Like, the animation that they actually do compared to their CGI, it makes the CGI look worse because aspects of the series around that is animated.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think the CGI for Spider is absolutely terrible. Some of it is absolutely terrible. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but I think it's because they mix certain scenes to certain aspects to make it just stand out more and feel even more terrible.
Just like
than
X-Arm.
It actually is. Well, it's worse than X-Arm.
Right, I know it's worse than X-Arm.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that's a good example. That is a good example.
It's a less wrong version of what X-Arm did. So
yeah. X-Arm, if you don't know what he's referring to, I'm pretty sure there was like 2D backgrounds with a 3D character.
Well, no, they had like a 2D
like
character standing directly next to CGI character, but bad CGI. Yeah. Whereas they had CGI characters next to 2D characters in Spider, but even then it wasn't as glaringly bad.
Mm-hmm. The CGI was actually all right CGI, except for everything that's big, like the dragon. But yeah. And at least Spider still keeps its personality in the series, I feel like. And that's what made me keep from dropping the anime. Mm-hmm. And even though I already know what's going to happen, I still peeped it. Now, it was like a dumpster fire I couldn't look away from, but touche.
Well, speaking of dumpster fires that I could look away from, two of the big series that I dropped after actually having time investment in were The Promised Neverland, which I dropped the anime season 2, and I never got back to the manga. I will get back to it eventually because I do want to see how it ended, but the way that they did Promised Neverland season 2 dirty was awful.
What are you talking about? Promised Neverland season 2 never happened.
Yeah. The same with Tokyo Ghoul Part 2. I
think, yeah.
Like, I dropped the last season of Tokyo Ghoul 3 episodes from the end. 3 episodes from the end. Because my girlfriend and I were just like, we can't. We can't watch this continued butchering of Tokyo Ghoul. Like,
I haven't read the manga, and I dropped it in the final season of the anime.
yeah, we
Um,
we need to read the Tokyo Ghoul manga ourselves. We have all of the first Tokyo Ghoul series in manga form, and we're just waiting for the box set to get
mhm.
restocked and not sold for $300 by people on the internet. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but like it's it was just an abomination with what they were doing to that
Hmm.
anime and just blitzing on through story points and whatnot. It was
Yeah.
no just bad, bad,
I
bad, bad.
dropped I dropped Promise Neverland too. So I totally get that.
I dropped it like
Um,
4 episodes in, I want to say.
yeah.
So, um,
It's just such a bad adaptation. Is there any like really, really popular series that you dropped that's regarded as like amazing?
um, not really. Any of the like acclaimed ones, for the most part, are series that I did go through and finish. Um,
Hmm.
or am continuing to read now. Um, Anything that I've dropped more so has been seasonal stuff. I guess the only thing that you could count would be Inuyasha, because I was never heavily invested in Inuyasha, and it was similar to like you with like the Naruto situation
Hmm.
where it was just like I don't care for all these people that are like geeking out in over Inuyasha and the cliche Inuyasha Kagome
Oh.
Inuyasha Kagome stuff. I couldn't do it, and like it's ironic because I have watched all of Yasahime so far. I've watched all of it.
Hmm.
Um,
I think that's funny because whenever people complain about the whole Kurosaki-kun in Bleach, I'm always like, "Have you seen Inuyasha?" And then when they say no, I'm like, "You have no right to complain."
yeah.
Because I totally understand that. Inuyasha is a series that I would have dropped myself. However, there was a girl in my class that I liked that really liked Inuyasha, so I watched it anyway. But I would have dropped it, so I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the filler in that series is insane.
Yeah.
But in the same way as Inuyasha was for you, where you dropped it, I actually dropped Attack on Titan and Gintama.
Mm.
Yeah. Attack on
Gintama
Titan, yeah.
Gintama's one where it's definitely subjective, um, getting into it. Like
Hmm.
that is definitely for sure. And obviously with Attack on Titan, that's got its own ups and downs with that too. So, but hey, at least you aren't making your own fan ending.
uh, Attack on Titan. I love the series. It used to be like one of my favorite series out. I have a Attack on Titan poster behind me. I love the series.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I forgot about. It's just like what was the series I mentioned before that I forgot about? Can't remember. But it's just like that series that I just forgot about it and never bothered to pick up. And now that I've heard that the ending is bad, I have no desire to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's staying there. I still love the series. I love season one. I loved what I saw of season two. I have a poster behind me for Pete's sakes. Like I like Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those weird series. Gintama, I think I could get into. It's just I dropped it 2 episodes in. Uh, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
did drop. Yeah, I dropped Kaguya-sama 15 seconds in.
oh my god, you're such a memer.
Okay, I turned on episode one, watched 15 seconds. My mom called me for dinner, ate dinner, and forgot about Kaguya-sama and never watched it again.
Jeez. Oh my god. All right. Uh-huh. Anyway. Um all right. So, I think we can do a bit of a speed round from me, as we're getting closer to the end here of seasonal stuff that I dropped for weird reasons.
Mhm.
So I'm going to tell you the series and I'm going to tell you what was weird about it that I just kind of dropped it for. So one of the ones that I dropped was Eldlive, which was a series by the creator of Katekyo Hitman Reborn, and also
Ooh.
she's also the artist for Psychopaths. And I dropped Eldlive because the main character had an alien cutesy head thing that popped out of his stomach, and I was just like, nah, man, this ain't it. This ain't it for me. And I was like, I can't do this. And like, this author also makes the same male main character in every series that she does, but I couldn't do it with this one. I couldn't do it. And like,
But
I know
it's cute. It's adorable.
no. And I know Broken Ronin dropped Katekyo Hitman Reborn because the first 70 chapters are gag before it like takes an action turn. But like, Eldlive is worse. It's worse.
Yeah.
Another
I've
one.
never seen Reborn.
No, it's I really love it, but I'm also one of the people that got through the first 70 chapters without hating it, and there are a lot of people that can't do that with gag series, so it is what it is. Back Arrow is one of the more recent ones that I dropped. It's a mech anime with a Chinese military and a magic military and cowboys and an Attack on Titan wall, and I'm just like, I can't do this. I watched one episode, and like toward the end of the episode, the main character's mech was like melting like goo, and that was like his special ability, and I was just like, this is dumb. This is dumb.
What series was it?
Back Arrow. And like, I'm just like, what is this mishmash garbage thing? And I kept telling myself, I'll go back and watch episode 2. I'll go back and watch episode 2, and I just
I watched
never
episode
did.
2. I watched episode 2. It doesn't get better.
Oh man,
I dropped it as well.
bad. Just not fun. I dropped Noblesse about 3 or 4 episodes in. Which was another one of the manhwa anime from last year. It was the last one of the year. And I dropped that one because Crunchyroll decided to adapt it after the OVA without actually like telling anyone about the OVA or recapping what happened in the OVA. So we just get dropped in with all these characters that we're supposed to know, and it's just like, what is this? What is even going on? What are these people vampires? Are they something else? I don't know, because this series isn't telling me anything. And, like
I remember that. I remember that whole little controversy out there about them deciding to do that. I haven't seen it because of that controversy. I didn't even pick it up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no. It's not worth picking up. It's not good. Not fun. Not enjoyable. I dropped the anime Plunderer after 2 episodes because I just did not like the main character, who is supposed to be like this awesome swordsman, but he wears the ugliest masks on his face, and like he tries to hit on women, and like every time he's rejected, it makes his counter go down further, and it's already negative 999 at the start. And the female lead was just like the flattest character, and I was just like, this is...
Yeah, I finished Plunder, and I regret finishing Plunder. It is not worth finishing.
I can believe it.
Yeah. It was terrible. I do hear the manga is better, though.
Yeah, I'm good. At this point, I'm good. I don't...
Oh, no, I don't plan on reading it either. I don't need more of that series. It was garbage.
And then the last... Well, I'll talk about 2 more seasonal. One of them... Oji-san to Marshmallow was a like 5-minute per episode series about like this middle-aged bit overweight dude in an office setting who really liked marshmallows, and this one female office worker who liked him would always kind of tease him with marshmallows, and I'm just like, what? What is this? Why is this a thing? And like, just again, it was like 5-minute things, because some anime do that. Some anime are literally just 5-minute things per episode, similar to how like there are like 4-panel or 4-page manga out there. And it was just so
Yeah.
so weird to me. And the last one I was going to talk about is I dropped the one Gundam series that everybody drops. I dropped Gundam G no Reconquista, which was a Gundam series done in the style of Eureka 7. Um, and it was just bad. Just bad. Like, you have a main character in a Gundam who he's fighting on this one side, and then like this enemy troop
Hmm.
unit army comes in, and he gets like taken by them, and then like without a fight, and then the entire rest of the series, or at least
Yeah.
for what I watched, he fought with them with like
Hmm.
no regrets, any kind of conscious things. He would fight against the army that he was originally part of, and I was just like, what is going on? Wait, where is like any kind of like emotional like, oh man, I feel bad for attacking my army guys. Not really.
I
Okay.
I could never get into Gundam, actually. I tried, but none of the Gundam series really spoke out to me. I'm not a mecha fan, but
It's mecha anime is definitely an acquired taste. I'm a fan
yeah.
of Gundam, but I myself have watched and consumed more of the offshoot seasons rather than the main timeline Gundam.
Hmm.
So like I grew up on G Gundam on Toonami, the incredibly racist stereotypical Gundam that G Gundam was. I watched Iron Blooded Orphans. I watched Gundam Age. I watched all of the Gundam Build Divers stuff. Um, and I've dabbled in some of the main stuff, but like Gino Reconquista is like universally panned by the Gundam community. It's
Hmm.
just, we don't want to talk about it at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know nothing about it. I tried, I think, an episode of one series. I can't even remember what it was about. Just didn't get into it. I like some mecha, like I like Code Geass. I just like it
Right.
when the mecha is more of a subline
Rather
than the
than the
main.
focus. Right.
Yeah, rather than the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
But
before we
yeah.
wrap things up, were there any other series that you dropped that you wanted to mention? Any last thoughts on stuff that we already covered?
Uh Not that I can think of. I'm trying to think. I dropped Monogatari 5 episodes in,
Oh boy,
but
don't tell Diet. Don't tell Diet.
oh no, no, he knows. He knows.
Oh no.
I'm gonna give it another shot sometime into the future. I dropped Fate Stay Night.
See,
Well, no, no,
I
no,
I
not Fate
just
Stay Night. Fate the starter Fate series. Fate
gotcha.
Zero's Fate Stay slash Zero. I don't know what it's called. It's the one where the first episode is an hour long almost.
Gotcha. I myself, and this might be sacrilege saying it, but I have never started the Godary series, and I have never started the Fate series, and that's just because I know that there's a lot, and like I've always been kind of like, all right, where do I start, kind of thing, and just knowing that it's an investment
Yeah.
to get through stuff, and I know you don't. At least for like Fate, you don't necessarily have to watch everything that Fate has offered, but like for the Godary series, you gotta do the whole thing. So it's just
Hmm.
like I
Yeah.
gotta get in the ground floor at some point, and I will, but I just haven't done it yet.
Well, my reason for dropping Fate's actually kind of funny. I made a deal with my brother where I'd watch all of Fate if he read all of Chainsaw Man, including part two, when that comes around. And he stopped reading Chainsaw Man, so I stopped watching Fate.
Sacrilege,
So yeah,
sacrilege.
it was okay. Like it wasn't like I wasn't upset about not like him breaking the deal because I wasn't really caring for the series anyway. Like I was 6 or 7 episodes in, maybe 8 or 9, and it was okay. It was starting to get better, but it was like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for me. Like I don't get where the hype is for the series.
I will say it is
Um,
funny to me that a third of the series that you seem to watch or read have all been part of bets or deals or whatnot. It's just like Poxal. Jeez.
I want to drop Kingdom right now, but
Ooh.
speed reading Bleach, and that's part of the deal. So I got to keep up with Kingdom for real.
How far are you in the
Um,
kingdom?
15 chapters in.
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, It would have been one thing if you told me, yeah, I'm like 50 to 100 chapters in the Kingdom. I'm like, okay, I understand, but you're 15 in.
It's so boring. And it's like 40-page chapters, and
Uh huh.
each chapter is like too much dialogue. Well, I'm fine with dialogue. Dialogue is cool. But it's like the story isn't even interesting to me. I guess. I think the first chapter was good, but everything else so far has been bad.
Mm hmm.
But hey,
Gotcha.
it could get better. I'm hoping it gets better.
I mean, that's literally what anyone that's ever read Kingdom
Yeah.
has told me is that it just gets better, like the
Hmm.
later into the series that it gets. Obviously,
Yeah.
Japan loves it. Like it's consistently one of the top 10 selling manga series in Japan year after year.
Hmm.
It's just that apparently in the West they're like, people read Kingdom, must not be us, and it just
Well, to be
consistently.
fair, it's not very translated from my understanding,
Well, it's
really.
it's it's one of those things where I do get the fact that like they think that like, oh well, people won't necessarily care about the cultural aspect of Kingdom because that doesn't really affect the West, but
Hmm.
there are a lot of people that are interested in it. But I don't know, there's got to be some kind of litmus test or something that Kingdom has continued to fail, that it just has not been picked up for translation here in the West, despite its good sales in Japan, and despite the fact that there's so much of it out there.
Yeah.
But
I think the final series to talk about is I dropped and picked up, but I dropped Vinland Saga.
you're not
Um,
the only one that did that. I mean, like, Roger's
yeah.
Space was another person that dropped Vinland Saga several times. Like, he couldn't get past like 3 episodes of the anime, and then eventually like he finally gave in, and then it was just like, oh my god, I was wrong. I was so wrong about
Mhm.
Vinland Saga. And it was just like,
Well, yeah, my thing with Vinland Saga is just a little different. With Vinland Saga, I loved the first 3 episodes. Like they were great, but I was kind of like falling out of anime as a whole. Um, I was kind of falling out of anime as a whole, and because of that, I ended up dropping Vinland Saga as well as many other things I was watching and reading at the time.
mm-hmm.
And I never picked it back up after I got back into anime because I knew a spoiler of who died.
Uh-huh.
I think I said this in the group chat. But I picked it back up, finished the anime. I slowly watched it rather than binged it because I
Sure.
find myself to not drop things that I slowly watch
Uh-huh.
rather than things that I binge. And not just that, I just find more enjoyment out of slowly watching something over time than binging.
I agree
Anyway,
with you.
the verdict is out after finishing the anime, and I bought all the manga volumes, so gonna read those once they come in.
One of
And yeah,
my biggest regrets in terms of manga buying is that I passed up like 5 to 8 volumes of Vinland Saga at a half price books at one point in time, and I
wow.
still kick myself about it because I asked my girlfriend. I was just like, should I get like this Vinland Saga stuff? Like it's all here, and she's like, I mean, like the volumes
Hmm.
don't look that interesting, and like, to be fair, like the spines are all basic colors that say Vinland Saga on the side, and like the covers are good. Um, but like we were like, oh, we'll pass, and then they were gone,
Yeah.
and for good reason because Vinland Saga is great, and so I continue to kick myself to this day that I did not
Hmm.
buy Vinland Saga at half price books when I had the
Yeah.
chance. And
Those
I
volumes are expensive.
well, they're hardcover. That's
Yeah.
why. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's why I kicked myself because they were at half price books for half price, and it was just like, oh no.
Hmm.
But like
Yeah.
that's also why I like anytime I go to half price books and there is a good selection of manga, I do make sure to buy it because I
Yeah.
never want to go through that feeling again of passing up on
No, that's fair.
good stuff. So,
Is
um,
it? Yeah. Is half books half price? Literally half priced books.
more often than not, yes. The only
Uh,
time where they like upcharge on certain things is if it's a book or uh item or whatnot that actually has value to it. So like one of the things that I bought, for example, that like shouldn't have been necessarily. If it was half price, it would have been cheaper. I bought a volume of Rave Master that was one of the harder to get volumes, but it was beat to hell. And yet it was still costing like more than what it would cost when it was like originally printed. I think I paid like $10 for it, for what would normally be like an $8 manga. That like half price would be like $5.
Yeah.
But they've had other memorabilia and whatnot that you could get, that they upcharged again because it was more of a collector's thing. Best thing I ever got at half price books for literally half price was the first box set of One Piece. I got that for $90. Ooh. And it was such a steal.
Yeah, that is a good thing. Yeah, I use Right Stuff because it's cheaper than retail, but it's still pricey. I like my stuff new. But
I buy through like Barnes & Noble and Books A Million myself, but that's also because I have memberships through them.
Yeah, Barnes & Noble has like a 30% discount with their membership.
It's, well, on like certain hardcovers, I think, but like it's normally like a 10% off of everything.
Oh, my bad. If you're like a teacher, you get 30%.
Yes.
Or a worker.
Yep.
That's how my bad. But yeah. And I don't think there's much more.
I would say anything else that I would have on my list isn't anything that is noteworthy compared to anything else. I guess the one other thing, I stopped watching Marvel like Disc Wars or whatever it was called, which was this anime in Japan where like all the Marvel superheroes and villains like they got turned into discs that like these like Japanese kids could use to fight against each other, but like so could the villains. So like you had actual people that were just trapped in these discs. And it randomly had like Deadpool in one episode because of course it had Deadpool, but like the main kid could use Iron Man, one of them could use Captain America, another one had Thor, one had Hulk, and it was just it was very Japan, and I did not care for it. I watched like 3 or 4 episodes and I was like, nah, chief, that's not for me. But like that, it just goes to show there's a lot of stuff out there. But I tend to be very careful about that stuff nowadays, where like I sift through it and I find the stuff that I'm genuinely going to be interested in and finish it.
Yeah.
And even for like the manga that I'm not 100% interested in, I follow through with it because I'm invested in it time-wise already, and I want to see how it concludes. For better or worse, I want to see it to the end. But
no, that's fair. And most of the time when something's bad to me, I still don't drop it, because when something's like really, really bad, it can also be really entertaining to just sit back, turn your brain off, and laugh at it.
Oh yeah, that was me with Build King. That was absolutely me with Build King.
Be careful, you might get attacked for that one from the 3 Build King fans.
I know. Oh, I believe me. I have in the past. I have. And it's one of those things which is like, oh, well, you'll appreciate Build King more if you read Toriko. And it's just like, I read Toriko. I finished Toriko. I love Toriko. And Build King is literally the mom, can we have Toriko? No, we have Toriko at home meme. And it's Build King. And it's awful. And it had awful story and plot and plot device decisions written into it. And it was bad. Just bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps things up. So, Poxal, I'll let you have the floor so you can get your last plugs for the people that have graciously stuck with us for an hour and a half into the podcast.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. I mean, if you guys do like Bleach, you can always check out my channel and the link in the description. But what you should actually do is you should subscribe to Axel Blaze for more podcasts here on his channel, because there's some gas content.
Absolutely. Which, I mean, if you are an hour and a half into this podcast and you are not already subscribed, thanks, but also subscribe. Like, I mean, seriously, like if you're an hour and a half into this podcast, you are the real MVP. But yeah, no, if you like Bleach content, definitely check out Poxal's channel, especially because we are getting a new Bleach chapter in 2021.
Yeah!
Dear God. Oh, wow. I can't believe it. It's like, praise
73
thee.
pages.
73 pages. Like, we're getting
Yeah.
more. Like, we're getting essentially a one shot and additional chapter in one in terms of length with this. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited for you and how happy you've been with this, and I'm excited to see your reaction to the chapter and everything with that, and however many reaction breakdown analysis videos that you can craft out of one 73 page chapter and what it might mean for Bleach in the future. So very excited for you with that. If you haven't checked out Poxal's Bleach D&D, you should definitely check out that either on his YouTube channel or on Twitch. Especially because...
if you do decide that you do want to check that out, which does have Axel in it, it's in my playlist section. Most of the streams aren't public on the YouTube channel, just because of how YouTube works, the algorithm. So just go to the playlist section and you can see Bleach D&D in there.
Yep. I'm not in it right away, but when I am in it, I'm awesome. Guaranteed. But I also know how to play D&D, so that's kind of how it is. But like I said at the beginning of the video, all of Poxal's links and whatnot will be down in the description down below. And if you are not subscribed already to him, please do so. Especially now that he is, and I'm going to put my congratulations in here for this too, now that he has reached 1,000 subscribers, finally, well-deserved. Absolutely well-deserved.
Thanks, bro.
So congratulations on that. But otherwise, I want to once again thank you for joining me on this podcast. It's been a fun discussion, as all of these podcasts that I've had with people have been. So I appreciate you for putting in the time and effort and being in here and sharing your stories and whatnot. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Anytime. With that being said, thank you guys for listening. Again, if you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. If you want to see more content like this in the future, hit that like button. And in the comment section down below, I definitely want to hear what series you guys have dropped for various reasons. So definitely put those in the comments. But for now, my name is Axel Blaze. Thank you all for being here. And I hope you don't drop this podcast like you might drop anime and manga. But anyway, for now, see you guys later. Bye-bye.